He offered me $100,000 to pose as his girlfriend at a business gala. Just act in love, he said. I needed the money, but when his gorgeous business rival Zara walked in, something real ignited inside me. Now I had to choose, the contract or my heart. Before I tell you how I went from a paid pretender to finding the realest love of my life, hit that subscribe button. This story changed everything for me, and it might just change how you see love too. I never thought I'd become someone's pretend girlfriend, but when your bank account's empty and eviction notices pile up, your standards shift. I'd moved to New York with big dreams of becoming a graphic designer, portfolio bursting with potential. 6 months later, I was working 2 jobs, barista by day, rideshare driver by night, and still falling behind on rent for my shoebox apartment in Brooklyn. That night, I picked up a passenger from one of those exclusive high-rises in Manhattan. The app said Alex, and when he slid into my back seat in his perfectly tailored suit, the air suddenly smelled like expensive cologne and privilege. He spent the entire ride on his phone, barely acknowledging my existence beyond a curt greeting. Just another rich guy who wouldn't even remember my face tomorrow. But as we pulled up to his destination, some exclusive club with a line wrapped around the block, he paused before getting out. You seem intelligent. Not like the others. Before I could process the backhanded compliment, he handed me his business card. I have a proposition. Call me tomorrow if you're interested in making more money than those 2 jobs combined. I almost threw the card away. Almost. But curiosity and desperation make dangerous partners, so I called. His assistant arranged a meeting at his penthouse office the following afternoon. I wore my only professional outfit, already feeling out of place, as the elevator climbed to the 50th floor. I need a girlfriend, Alex said bluntly, after his assistant left us alone with espressos I was too nervous to drink. Not a real one. I don't have time for that. I need someone presentable, articulate, and capable of convincing my business associates that I'm settled and reliable. He named a figure, $100,000 for 6 months of appearances, and I nearly choked. Why me? I managed to ask, suspicion wrestling with hope. You're beautiful but not intimidating, educated but not connected enough to pose any risk to my business dealings, and clearly in need of money. His assessment stung, but the accuracy hurt worse. Think of it as acting. All expenses paid, plus the fee. I'd be lying if I said I didn't consider walking out. Something about becoming a prop in someone's life felt demeaning. But then I thought about my student loans, my parents who couldn't help, my dwindling savings. What exactly would this involve? I heard myself ask. The contract laid everything out: attend events, engage in appropriate physical affection, hand-holding, occasional kissing, learn his business basics, sign an NDA. No sex, no real emotional attachment. 6 months, then we'd amicably part ways, with a public story about career priorities. 3 days later, I signed away my authentic romantic life for financial stability. Alex immediately transferred the first payment and sent his personal shopper to upgrade my appearance. As I stood in a dressing room surrounded by clothes that cost more than my monthly rent, being assessed like a doll being dressed for display, reality hit me. I'd sold something I couldn't quite name. Not my body, but perhaps pieces of my truth. The night of our first appearance, a charity gala for some environmental cause Alex's company supposedly supported, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. Designer dress, professional makeup, hair styled to perfection. Alex approved with a business-like nod when his driver picked me up. Remember, he said as we approached the venue, tonight you're madly in love with me. Make it convincing. I took his arm, plastered on a smile, and stepped into my new role. Fake smiling becomes surprisingly easy after the 20th champagne toast. I got good at it, the gentle touch on Alex's arm when he made a business joke, the adoring gaze during his speeches, the perfectly timed laugh at whatever the other executive said. After a month, I could recite Alex's company history better than some of his board members. What I didn't expect was actually enjoying some of it. Behind closed doors, Alex wasn't exactly warm, but he wasn't the complete jerk I'd initially pegged him for. He taught me things: how to read people at these events, which conversations mattered, and which were just noise. Business is theatre, he told me one night as we reviewed our performance. Everyone's playing a part. Including us, I thought. We developed a routine. Car rides spent reviewing who we'd meet, elevator rides down, spent dissecting what we'd learned. Sometimes, late at night after particularly grueling events, we'd order takeout to his penthouse and just talk about books, art, even my abandoned design career. He wasn't a friend exactly, but he wasn't just my employer anymore either. By the third month, I stopped feeling like an imposter. I belonged in these rooms now, could navigate the subtle power plays and silent negotiations happening behind crystal glasses and forced laughter. I was good at this game, maybe too good. Then came the tech conference in San Francisco. Alex was tense the entire flight, reviewing presentations instead of sleeping. Zara Williams will be there, he finally explained. She's been poaching my developers and undercutting my contracts. The way he said her name, part respect, part frustration, piqued my interest. I wasn't prepared for her. Zara commanded the room the moment she entered, tall, confident, with the kind of smile that felt like a private joke. Unlike the other execs, her warmth seemed genuine. When our eyes met across the crowded reception, something electric passed between us. Something very, very real. I told myself it was nothing, just a momentary connection in a room full of networking vultures. But when Zara approached us later that evening, champagne in hand, and that knowing smile playing on her lips, my heart betrayed me with its sudden racing. "So, this is the girlfriend everyone's talking about," she said, extending her hand to me instead of Alex. Her voice had this melodic quality, like she was always on the verge of sharing something wonderful. "Alex has been keeping you quite the secret." Alex's arm tightened around my waist. A warning. "Zara, always a pleasure. Though I'd appreciate if you'd stop trying to steal my entire engineering team." "It's hardly stealing when they come willingly," she countered, but her eyes stayed on me. "I'm hosting a small gathering tomorrow night at my place. Creative minds, good food, actual conversation, not business. You should come." She handed me, not Alex, her card, her fingers lingering against mine just a second too long. I shouldn't have gone. It violated everything in my agreement with Alex, but I found myself in a rideshare the next evening, telling myself I was gathering intelligence for him. Zara's small gathering was unlike any event I'd attended with Alex. Artists mixed with tech developers, conversations flowed about ideas rather than stock prices. And Zara, seeing her in jeans and a simple blouse, barefoot in her own space, laughing genuinely, was magnetic. "You're different than I expected," she said, finding me on her balcony overlooking the bay. "There's something about you that doesn't quite fit the typical trophy girlfriend mold." "Is that a compliment?" I asked, trying to maintain my guard. "Absolutely." Her smile crinkled the corners of her eyes. "You observe everything. I watched you tonight. You listen like someone collecting pieces of a puzzle." Over the next few weeks, I created excuses to be in San Francisco, telling Alex I was networking for him, building relationships that might be useful. Instead, I was meeting Zara for coffee, for walks along the pier, for late-night phone calls, where we talked about everything and nothing. She told me about growing up in Oakland, being the only black woman in her engineering program, building her company from nothing while investors doubted her every step. With her, I wasn't a performance. I was just me, the real me I'd almost forgotten existed. And whenever our hands accidentally touched or our eyes held contact too long, that electricity returned, stronger each time. I was falling for my fake boyfriend's business rival. And worse, I was falling for her while being paid to love someone else. You seem distracted tonight. Alex's voice cut through the silence as our town car crawled through Manhattan traffic. We'd just left a major investor dinner, and I'd apparently failed at my one job, making him look good. Sorry, just tired, I lied, but I could feel his eyes studying me in that analytical way of his. 3 months into our arrangement, he'd become surprisingly adept at reading me. This wouldn't have anything to do with Zara Williams, would it? His tone was casual, but the question was anything but. My heart froze. My security team mentioned you've been meeting her. I could have denied it, but what was the point? We've had coffee a few times. She's interesting. She's a competitor. Alex's voice remained even, but his jaw tightened. And you're contractually obligated to appear loyal to me and my interests. The reminder stung more than it should have. I haven't shared anything confidential. Haven't you? He pulled out his phone, showing me photos of Zara and me laughing at a cafe, walking close together along the waterfront. This looks quite cozy for business intelligence gathering. Shame and indignation battled within me. Are you having me followed? I'm protecting my investment. He put his phone away, then surprised me by softening his tone. I'm adjusting your compensation. Another $50,000, plus bonuses for key events through the remainder of our contract. The amount knocked the air from my lungs. With that money, I could finally launch my design studio, maybe even put a down payment on a small place. All I had to do was stay away from Zara. Think of your future, Alex said, mistaking my silence for consideration. Zara Williams has made a career of disrupting established systems. Do you really think you're different from any other connection she's using to get to me? His words planted seeds of doubt. Was I just another pawn in their corporate chess match? That night, I cancelled my plans with Zara, ignoring the hurt confusion in her texts. But a week later, she appeared at a fundraiser we were attending. I watched her work the room, brilliant and magnetic, until she finally made her way to us. Her eyes found mine first, searching for something I was afraid to give. I've missed you, she said quietly when Alex was momentarily distracted. Then, more seriously, whatever he's told you about me isn't true. Later that night, in a moment alone by the coat check, she touched my arm. I know there's something you're not telling me about you and Alex. I feel it, but I also feel something real between us. Her vulnerability broke something in me. I've built my life fighting for what matters, not what's convenient. The question is, can you? I went home that night and stared at my bank balance, the security it represented, then at our text messages, the authenticity they contained. For the first time in my life, the choice wasn't about survival. It was about who I wanted to be. I sat in Alex's minimalist apartment, contract spread between us on his glass coffee table. The termination clause stared back at me. I'd lose not just future payments, but have to return a portion of what I'd already received. Financial suicide. Is she really worth it? Alex wasn't angry, which somehow made it worse. He seemed genuinely perplexed, like I was a spreadsheet calculation that suddenly wouldn't balance. You understand she'll lose interest once she realizes you have no more value as leverage against me. That's not who she is, I said, though doubt crept in. I hadn't told Zara the truth yet, that I was essentially a paid actor in Alex's life. Then who are you in this scenario? He leaned forward. The authentic girlfriend of a billionaire who secretly meets with his competitor, or someone who's been lying to both of us. His words hit like a physical blow. I signed the termination papers and left, tears blurring the elevator numbers on my way down. I was nobody's girlfriend now, fake or otherwise. I spent 3 days in my apartment, ignoring Zara's calls, wrestling with how to tell her the truth. Finally, I asked her to meet me at a small park, neutral territory, away from both Alex's world and hers. I've been paid to pretend to be Alex's girlfriend, I blurted out as soon as she sat beside me. It was a business arrangement. I was never really with him. Not like that. I watched her face cycle through confusion, hurt, and understanding. A beard contract? Not exactly. More like stability optics for investors. I couldn't meet her eyes. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not connected or successful. I'm just someone who needed money and sold a piece of myself to get it. I expected her to leave. Instead, she laughed. A short, surprised sound. Do you think I don't know what it's like to compromise to survive? I grew up with nothing. I've made choices I'm not proud of. She took my hand. The difference is whether those choices define you forever. Who are you choosing to be now? It wasn't an immediate fairy tale. Trust had to be rebuilt on both sides. I found a small design job, moved to a cheaper apartment, started over. Zara gave me space but never disappeared completely. 3 months later, over dinner at her place, she asked me the question that had been hanging between us. If it hadn't been for the contract with Alex, would we have ever met? I considered the unlikely crossing of our paths. Me, a struggling designer, and her, a tech innovator, and realized that sometimes the wrong reasons lead you to exactly the right place. Maybe not, I admitted, but we would have missed something real. It's been 18 months since I walked away from that contract, and sometimes I still wake up amazed at where life has taken me. Zara and I live in a converted loft in Brooklyn now. Nothing like Alex's sleek penthouse, but filled with actual life and laughter. My design studio occupies the front half, where I create branding for small businesses that actually mean something to their communities. Zara still runs her tech empire, but now she comes home to someone who loves her for who she is, not what she represents. I ran into Alex last month at a cafe. He was with someone new, another beautiful woman who smiled on cue. He noticed me, gave a small nod of recognition, and for a moment I saw something like regret cross his face. Not for losing me, but perhaps for the authenticity he's still paying to simulate. The greatest irony is that in trying to fake love, I stumbled into the real thing. I learned that security isn't just about numbers in a bank account. It's about waking up next to someone who sees you completely and chooses you anyway. It's about building something true, even when that truth is complicated and messy. Money can rent happiness for a while, but it can't purchase the feeling of Zara's hand finding mine in the dark, or the way her eyes light up when I show her a new design I'm proud of. I went from pretending to be loved to being actually loved, and that transformation changed everything. I now measure wealth differently, by authenticity, by courage, by moments of genuine connection that no contract could ever specify. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is walk away from what looks like security and toward what feels like truth. I'm still learning, still growing, still making mistakes, but now I'm doing it as myself, and that, more than any amount of money, is the richest way to live. If this story touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit like, share with someone who needs to hear that real love exists, and drop a comment about a time you chose authenticity over convenience. Our next video drops Thursday. Subscribe so you don't miss it.